they like my Colorado swag. Cause when I'm in that flag, I don't really know just how to act. And when I'm in that goal, you know I'm acting bad. Holla get a bus with my Colorado swag. My Colorado swag, my Colorado swag. I think they like my Colorado swag. My Colorado swag, my Colorado swag. Man, I swear I think they like my Colorado swag. My Colorado swag is pushing 180. Speeding past competition, see you later, baby. Colorado Army with soldiers like the Navy. And boat is where we station, patiently awaiting. When I hit the field, it's so hard to behave. I'm Colorado swagging as the crowd do the wave. Look into my eyes, I can tell that you afraid. Cause you know we finna hit ya. Hey, you on your own now, why you watching the official? You just better hope you make it to the next whistle. And we ain't playing with you can get it anytime.
Welcome in to DNVR Buffs Postgame, presented by the Colorado XOs. If you guys haven't heard about the Colorado XOs, that is a professional rugby team right here in Colorado, and they're doing some really cool things, like bringing in some former football players, former basketball players, like D1 guys who've been in the NFL or NBA, and they're training them to play rugby and hopefully make the U.S. national team, which also trains right here at Infinity Park in Glendale. Stay tuned to the DNVR Rugby podcast, DNVR Rugby Twitter account, all of that for more updates on the Colorado XOs.
It's a cool concept that they're doing, because you always wonder this about other sports. Like, oh, what if our best athletes played that sport?
What if LeBron played rugby? The U.S. wins, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We win. We win.
Yeah, definitely. Or like soccer.
I actually don't think.
I don't think LeBron was a goalie.
Okay, yeah, he would be one of the best.
No, he wouldn't.
You don't think so?
You think
LeBron James.
If he brought his flopping talents to soccer, no, I think that team would not be great.
Okay, let's not get into terrible takes just quite yet.
Yeah, we know you got plenty on the way, Ben. Let's talk about the Buffs, because that was a big game tonight. Big win, 69-51.
Nice.
Is that right?
Nice,
Cool.
yeah.
I'm Henry Chisholm, by the way. That's Ben Gerding, Ryan Koenigsberg.
Ben Palm.
Yeah, so something happened during the game tonight.
It took the over was 3 minutes.
Our resident nerd on this show was going through what stat were you referencing?
Right. So they call me resident nerd. Everybody else who's watching that cares about college basketball knows that when I reference a single stat from KenPom,
what stat?
Adjusted offensive efficiency.
Blah 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 blah.
Offensive or defensive adjusted efficiency. Very simple concepts. I sent a tweet out yesterday that talked about this stat, which just says how much you score or allow within every 100 possessions. And, clearly I was the only one doing my job. Henry was blown away by this. So.
Okay, fair. But yeah, so then Ben Palm happened because he's going off on his stats. And we want to hear more about these Ben Palm rankings. So before we get into this game, give me a Ben Palm top 5 in the Pac-12.
Just teams?
Ben
of
Palm
course.
rankings. Well,
Ben
based
Palm,
on
top 5.
Your formulas.
Right. Okay, so based on my formulas and my calculus, the top 5 teams right now in the Pac-12 are going to be USC, Colorado, UCLA, Oregon, Stanford.
Yeah. Okay, we'll accept that. The Ben Palm is now a legitimate ranking and statistics system.
Stay tuned for my weekly column.
Yes, we will be talking more about the Ben Palm going forward. Let's start with the biggest takeaways from tonight, though. And I feel like there's a couple different ways we could go, but I'll start out with this. This whole, blown lead thing, that's a thing of the past. And that is so nice to just see a couple of games where the Buffs get out in front and hold that lead, especially this one coming on the road.
I told you guys this after the Arizona game, and I said, look, this is a team that just stared its darkest demons in the face, threw it the double bird, and walked the other way. And they're not turning back. They're just not. You can see it in this team. You saw it. They almost blew it against Arizona. They were fine. They took a big lead against Oregon State. They finished it. They took a big lead against Stanford. They finished it. They are a changed team after seeing that. And it's really nice to see. It's like this was a stress-free win. This was light work.
It was.
They just went out for a nice little afternoon Thursday
Pickup game.
Jump around, shoot around. And they just made easy work of a pretty darn good Pac-12 basketball team.
Yep. Look, blown leads. I'm not going to say that they can put it behind them at this point because I think that's a recipe for them to blow a lead against Cal. Just saying that. I'm sure there's people in the comments that would agree with me on that one. But what I will say is, this team goes on a 10-0 run to start, and then all of a sudden Stanford comes back in and it's, tied up. That does not count as a blown win or blown lead because the score really doesn't matter until I think the under 16 timeout in the second half. Mm-hmm. That's when that kind of stuff starts to matter because, you talk about the lead in the first half, that's just them playing basketball. They could be up 3-0. You wouldn't call that a blown lead. So, but to your point, Ryan, they did a great job tonight of really sticking with it. And the times that Stanford got close and they were able to draw in a little bit, they never got closer than 6 points when it mattered, And when Stanford got within 6 points in the second half, Colorado responds with an 8-0 run, compounded by a huge Jariah Horn dunk that really just cemented this win. Every win right now is big time. They were expected to win. They were favored in this game, but especially now on the road, Tad Boyle this season, 5-4 in road games. I mean, this just does have a different feel. But with that being said, we're now entering the last 5-game stretch of the season, and everybody knows what that number means.
Yeah, glad we brought it up.
It means nothing.
I'm glad you guys
seriously.
agree because that's all I've seen is it doesn't matter yet because they did this last year, and it's like, they did do this last year, but this is a different team. Jariah Horn being on this team makes it different. McKinley Wright has grown as a leader. The depth of this roster, I mean, thinking about guys like Eli Parquet, Maddox Daniels, guys that made you sweat when they handled the ball last season, this year they're big-time contributors. It's a different team. Everything feels different.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to that moment against Arizona. Like, when they blew that lead, I was ready to come on here and say, it's fair if you want to press the panic button. Like, if they blew that game, I was going to say, like, my hand isn't hitting it, but I'm hovering over it because now I'm scared.
Yeah.
They win. They take care of business in dominant fashion in the next 2 games. And now I'm not worried about them at all. This is a resilient team. They're extremely mentally tough. They follow McKinley Wright's lead. He's extremely mentally tough. Evan Batty, like, this team is just built different. They're built different.
They are built different. And
they're not going to collapse in the last 5 games. They just aren't.
Yeah, and I really do think, and this is something that Tad Boyle has harped on as well, it's a different team. It's a different year. What happened last year doesn't matter at all. And, the similarity between this year and last year is that the Buffs have given themselves a seat at the table. And when you're sitting here at 10-4, the UCLA, USC, they're both going to be playing tonight. I think they start at like 8-9. If either one of those teams lose, Buffs have a really good path to the regular season title. It's not that far off.
What are the standings right now?
So as it stands right now, USC and UCLA, like I said, playing tonight, not against each other. They're both 9-2. Colorado is 10-4. So it's the 2 losses that you need to make up for in the loss column, of course.
You play both of them head to head.
Yep. The last weekend of the season in Boulder. So going into that weekend, if you're only 1 loss behind them, you can make that up, and you'd win the tiebreaker.
Even though they lost to UCLA already?
Assuming that USC and UCLA are both a part of that tiebreaker because they've already beaten USC. So if they sweep, they'd be 3-1 in those games.
And that's common. Okay.
Yeah. And then on top of that, USC and UCLA, after that last weekend of the season, they play each other that Monday in LA. And so there's one more loss that's going to come in late. The point is, Colorado's a half a game back right now. Those 2 teams are, they should win tonight, but we're scoreboard watching at this point.
Right,
and the Buffs are right there.
Now, if everything you just said was correct,
it was.
If both teams, under the very intense stipulation of if Henry was right, if both teams lose tonight, then the Buffs would control their own destiny to win the Pac-12.
I believe so.
And if everything you said was right.
Okay, so I believe he has no clue. This is a hunch.
So the only thing that could go wrong is if USC went on a losing streak, UCLA does not, and then you split that tiebreaker, you wind up tied. I'm not sure what the other tiebreaker is.
Okay.
So there's that. That's the only thing that could go wrong.
Okay.
You basically have control of your own destiny if they lose.
What
tonight.
has been this? There's like a new pushback on the phrase "control your own destiny." Have you heard about
really?
this?
I hadn't heard there's a pushback.
Yeah, people are really disliking. There's like a new.
Like fate people.
I just think there's like people saying it's an oxymoron because the entire point of destiny is it can't be controlled.
Well, you can control your own future. Does that make those people feel better?
That's what I said, but it doesn't sound nearly as cool.
No, because it's not the phrase.
Right.
But I think the point of the phrase is saying destiny is.
We know what the point is.
No, but what I'm saying, I believe is true.
Okay.
Is that destiny is something that you can't control. So by controlling your own destiny, it means. Yeah, I realize
It doesn't
why you
make
tried to
sense.
stop me.
Yeah.
You should have just gone with your gut there and cut
I
my
know.
mind.
I
We
should have
we
cut you off.
tried. We don't have that.
You were so sure.
capability.
What does Ben Palm say about control your own destiny?
Yeah,
Pro
Ben
or
Palm
anti?
likes it. Ben Palm likes
okay.
it. Yeah.
Ben Palm is in on that.
We need,
on
we need to
control.
get some graphics made up of like me doing this. Like Ben Palm likes it.
Ben Palm. Cool. Okay. Any other details from this game tonight that stuck out to you guys?
It is crazy how good McKinley Wright can be
Yeah.
without. I don't want to. I guess I will say it without feeling like he's dominating the game. At no point tonight did you say like, "Oh my God, they have no answer for McKinley."
Yeah.
But he puts up 14, 9, and 9, which, we live in a town that Nikola Jokic also lives in. So stat lines like 14, 9, and 9 lose their luster a little bit.
That's true.
14, 9, and 9 from a college point guard is insane.
Yeah.
And speaking of,
Right?
Speaking of,
Ben, do you want to do it?
yeah,
Okay, you get to do it.
introducing the
Yep.
Ben Palm. Selfish plug.
you got to pay for that.
The DraftKings king of the game tonight, as you could imagine, McKinley Wright the fourth, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. For those of you kind of watching the 1600, 600, 600 club, he's now I think 4 rebounds away. So that is almost
it's not
a sure
a club
thing.
when there are 0 members. Of
That's
it.
fair.
What is it, Ben Palm?
He's the bouncer at a very exclusive club.
Interesting. So you think the first person
He's
who
the
gets to an empty building just sets up outside and doesn't let anybody
I'm
in?
gonna guard
That's what I did with my apartment.
He's the owner. He's the owner, the bartender, the manager, and the bouncer.
And probably the customer, you'd have to assume.
Yes, and he's serving himself.
Yep.
More like
Which
he's
Tad Boyle will hate because one of his favorite phrases is "Don't get drunk on your own wine."
Oh.
Yep.
So
Which
I'm
is
sure
like
he's getting a talking to before
It's
he
like a
breaks it.
dumbed down version of "Don't get high on your own supply." But I
how
just
does
don't
that?
think he wants to talk about getting high.
What context
I think
was
so.
that in though? I'm like
Don't watch the DNVR Buffs postgame and hear them tell you how great you are, and then let it inflate your ego.
Yes.
what is that supposed to mean? Is that a shot at? Me?
No, I was talking about myself. Like I just
I
sit
was like,
here and
God,
talk
the
about how
shade.
great the Buffs are. They should not be watching this.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fair. If I'm Tad Boyle, I'm getting them in the locker room and I'm showing them the Utah collapse tape again. Because I said this multiple times on our post-game
A
show.
masochist.
I want to just piss them off more. Because tonight, Jariah Horn, he dunked the ball, and Ron, you looked at me and said, I've never seen that face before. It was
Angry
like a mean
Jariah
mug.
face.
Yeah.
I want this team pissed
Yeah.
off because they go out there and they get it.
Dude, what has this even been though? Like, to kind of get back to the basketball side a little bit more, this is just they've been dominant, and we've been talking about the fact they haven't blown the leads, but the fact that they're building 20-point leads in most of these games is a whole nother storyline that's just kind of absurd.
Right. That's what's being missed here is that the Utah game was an outlier in that they blew the lead. If they just don't now, and they don't, we're talking about
11 and 3.
They're getting 20-point leads on everyone.
Including, Stanford's a good team. If Colorado had lost tonight, they'd be tied for 4th place, and it was a pick'em of a game.
Yep, I wouldn't
Colorado
fault
went
them.
in there and won 69-51, an 18-point win on the road, led for 37 minutes.
I expected them to lose this game personally. I said it on after our post-game show against Arizona. I thought they would split each of this 6-game stretch. I thought they'd beat Oregon State, but I expected them to drop games on the road to Stanford and Oregon because those are the games where losing them are acceptable because it's just you don't beat good teams on the road that often. Colorado just did and did it in a dominant fashion.
Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't brought this up yet. I got so caught up in our stupid little bits. But
Yeah, plenty more coming.
the biggest takeaway from this game is that they dominated in a team that is against a team that is front court focused with their big men in foul trouble the entire game.
Yes.
Like, it did not matter who was on the court tonight. And that's happening. Like, we were so worried about the loss of Jabari Walker. It hasn't affected anything.
Yeah.
I love Jabari, and he's awesome. And with him, they're a better basketball team. But they're literally 3-0 without him. And today you would have pointed out as maybe the game where they would have needed him the most because they lost their big men.
Dallas Walton played 10 minutes. Evan played 19.
And both of them, I think it's 7 or 8 fouls between the two of them, which kind of leads into my, I don't want to call it a biggest takeaway, but a big point. Tristan da Silva, second straight game. Now tonight, his stat line was not as dominant as a showing as last time, because 2 nights ago he put up 15 points, but he just had a great presence about him. Now, he did still make some, freshman mistakes. He had a couple iffy passes, but he also made up for it with a couple beautiful ones.
And the iffy passes, I think, next year are beautiful. And if not next year, then the year after. Yep. Because you can tell that he sees the court. He knows where people are. He knows what his angles look like.
You talking about Tristan?
Yeah. He has some, I'm not sure what it is, but something down in the post.
Was it the Arizona game when I turned to you, Ben, and I said, Tristan, a switch flipped for him?
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm not sure yet.
I was very hesitant.
That sounds like a conversation. As Ben Palm changed his mind.
Yes,
the
Ben Palm rankings have really turned around on Tristan da Silva. And the Ben Palm rankings,
right,
they are...
Just stop. What I was going to say is I turned to Ben and I said something clicked for Tristan. Like, he went from looking like wiry freshman, very unsure of what he's doing on the court, to all of a sudden, basketball player. Just basketball player. Yep. And ever since then, that's all he's been doing. He just goes out there and he plays. He doesn't look unsure of anything. He's shooting open shots. Like, a perfect example was the little elbow jumper he got tonight. Mm-hmm. The offense flowed directly to him. He had an open shot, and so many times an unsure freshman pump fakes there. And passes it out.
Yep.
And he just, without hesitation, shot it, knocked it down. It's really awesome to see. Like, it's one of my favorite parts of college sports is when it clicks for these guys. And so many times everyone expects it to happen right away. Like, they're just not all going to be Jabari Walkers where they just walk out there and they're good. And you get to see, like, guys' development. And for him, sometime during the Arizona game, it was just like, oh, right, this is just basketball.
Yeah.
And he's a basketball player.
And speaking of development, Eli Parquet, again, just more big shots. And again, it's every single one of these shows where you have to say, yep, Eli Parquet, better than we thought he'd be. And just every single night, he's doing something he didn't do the night before.
I want to point something out because we haven't talked directly just about how good their defense was tonight on a grand scale. So Oscar da Silva scores 22 points on less than 50%. So, like, that's, whatever. It's a whatever performance.
Right.
No one else in double digits for them. The dude who hit 2 threes, Spencer Jones or something, he had 8 points. Zaire Williams, who literally had 0 impact on this game, had 7 points. And that's it. There's a couple guys. There's a guy with 6, a guy with 2, a guy with 4. They had one player in double figures. Their second highest scorer was 8. I mean, they got absolutely clamped. They shot 39% from the field, 20% from 3. And nothing they did looked easy. Everything they did, they had to work for really hard.
Yep. I mean, Oscar da Silva putting up 22 points. He's the front runner for the player of the year. I think it's down between he and Evan Mobley at USC at this point. So him scoring 22 points is, you kind of chalk it up to, well, it's just a really good player. But, thinking about the fact that, again, like you mentioned before, this front court was in foul trouble, not just for the whole game. In the beginning, when this was still a game, they went in with a big lead in halftime, and they ended up winning by 18 points. But in the beginning, Evan Batty had 2 fouls in 3 minutes, and Tristan da Silva has to come in there and hoop, and that just shows you, more about his progression. But this defense as a whole, They're just playing well as a unit. They know where, what their assignments are. They're able to pick up and adjust and do great help defense. And real quick on Tristan da Silva, I have a comp. I'm ready for it. You ready?
I love your comparisons.
Brendan Rice. You know why? Because he's reaching the point where he's no longer somebody else's son, somebody else's brother. He's making a name for himself. Because before this year, Brendan Rice was Jerry Rice's son. And to this point,
in a lot of ways, he still is.
He is still. I'll give him that.
But also, it's a tougher name to get rid of.
Yeah.
It's Jerry Rice.
Right, yeah. So in this case, Tristan da Silva, this whole time, sometimes, especially early in the season when he looked a little bit out of place, he might have gotten that, it's just, we only got him because Tristan da Silva's brother. But he's really making a name for himself. I think, he might be able to turn the corner and be a piece, big piece of this team moving forward, especially with Jabari Walker. I mean, how long is he really going to stay? So,
yeah,
there's that tangent.
Well, I was told we have a nice little gift from the graphics team with Valentine's Day coming right up, and there it is.
Wow.
Allie, is that what you've been chuckling about over there? You son of a gun. I updated my profile picture today because
my God.
I wanted to have more swag on my profile like Ryan.
Well, you achieved it.
So
Are you putting the sunglasses on or taking them off?
I don't remember. These were.
I think he's like adjusting them to look at something on the ground.
I think what I saw I think this picture was taken right outside of a bar on Desperation Day, and I think I saw a woman that that intrigued my interest.
2 inches tall?
Well, funny that you mentioned that. My girlfriend in high school was like 4'7", so.
Wait, can you bring that back up just for one more second? Actually, just leave this up the rest of the show. Let's play a game in the comments. What is Ben looking at? I think he's just looking at numbers.
Do you know what the worst part of this is?
Ben Palm crunching numbers.
Do you know what the worst part of this is?
What?
My family's watching this show right now. My dad just replies, he's like, holy shit.
We got to send him one. We got to print it out.
All right. This little bit of advice. You're now an adult.
Wow.
You have a real job.
Wow.
And
we'll print that out and we'll send that up for new member signups during the month of February.
Yes. You can't be using your high school senior picture as your Twitter photo. It's too old.
I don't know. I mean,
yes, it is. The problem, I haven't gotten pictures taken of myself in years.
That is the thing.
I was getting some help on my Tinder profile from a friend, and she said all of these pictures suck. And so she
maybe that's an indictment on the subject.
Yeah.
Of Tinder?
Of the
no,
pictures.
of you.
It's just me. Wait, I connected the dots.
There you go.
The Ben Palm rankings did not like that joke. But yeah, so anyway, it made me dig into some old files, and I discovered all of my senior picks, and that was the only one where I thought, you know what, it's decent.
Here's what we're gonna do. After the show, go downstairs. We're gonna grab a beer. We're gonna put you in a nice DNVR polo. You're a professional now. And we're going to take you over to the Instagram wall. Snap a pic of you with a beer that shows like, I'm
I'm of
able
age.
to drink in public. Because that
guess.
picture there would not convey such a message.
I don't know. I think it does. That picture right there says, no, it says frat bag. You're right. That's a tough pic.
All it says is
that
like it's
picture
either
says like, wow, that ant is looking fine.
or it's either dark outside but getting lighter, or light outside and getting darker.
Right.
That's the question.
There
Yeah.
was an adjustment.
Jump into the YouTube comments right now. Let me know. Was it getting darker or getting lighter? We need to know.
Anyways, we're gonna get you a nice pic.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I think I'm going to use that one on my Tinder profile.
That exact one.
Just say, God, Allie is really putting in a lot of work tonight as the producer.
Wow, that is just such good stuff.
That was funny. Thank you.
That was a good tangent.
Thank you to the graphics team.
We are close. Well, now I kind of wish we'd done something Saturday. Maybe we can do something Valentine's themed.
That's
with the
closer
Buffs.
to Valentine's Day.
It is. It is.
Yeah, we can bring back that.
Do you know what day Saturday is, right?
Yes.
No.
Folks,
You're not down to
real
throw
quick,
it to Ben again?
Real quick, because we'll tie off the tangent here, but jump into the comments and let me know. Do anyone out there know what Desperation Day is? I know there are some people out here that celebrate this holiday like I do. The day where you go out and do what you need to do on Desperation Day, that's what the YouTube commenters are going to tell us. We'll circle back at the end.
While
Yes.
we're just like getting bits that involve Ben out of the way,
Yeah.
I think it is time for Analogy Hour with Ben.
Give me an analogy, Ben.
Well, you got to prompt
Other
me, Ben.
end of the break.
An
Other end of the break.
Okay, all right.
We're going to come back from the break. Ben,
You have to give an analogy. Let's actually not give him too much time to think, because then he'll.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
prompt you.
Okay. I'll be ready, though. I'll be thinking of my... Yeah. What did he say? Day before D-Day when Ben finds all... See? Exactly. Yes, that's my brother, John.
Yeah.
Shout out, John. He graduated Ohio State. He was there for, I think, 10 or 15 years.
Oh.
Finished up that degree.
that's
but-
a good joke.
See? I got
Good one.
laughs.
Yep. Somebody had to. All right. We are going to take a quick break now, though. When we come back, we're going to play some fun games like Ben makes an analogy. And then after that, we're going to get into some questions. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Again, we're having fun with Ben. If you have any questions about Ben Palm rankings, you need something ranked, throw those in the questions. We'll get to all those. Or just, if buff stuff is on the table as well. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and all those things because it really helps us. And now, I would
Word
like
from our sponsor.
to say just a quick word about the Juice Drop IPA. Such a good beer. It's a beer that we've had a lot on the tailgate. But we've given that shout out. Now I have a question for you, Ryan.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you've read this updated ad, but let me just read a line
This is
to
an
you.
ad? I had no idea.
Yeah, okay. Here it is. You've witnessed the famous RK Special and many other mixtures via the tailgate. Now it's time for the professionals to take over and deliver a creamy brown butter mushroom chicken. Does that hurt you at all to say now it's time for the professionals to take over and also many other mixtures, not Hank Special?
Yeah, it seems like a shot. Because I would consider myself a professional. I don't know how you could not consider me a professional when I concocted the highest selling beer at this bar.
Yes, you did.
Is it really?
I mean, I'm using, according to the Ben Palm rankings, it's number one.
Yeah. So while we may have a little bit of beef about the professionals, there are a bunch of cool things going on. Half Baked Harvest is using the vanilla porter and a cream sauce with that dish. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff like that going on, including vanilla porter and a molten chocolate cake. So get over to Breck's Twitter page or Instagram. Check out the links in the bio because it's really good stuff, and that's a great way to spend your Valentine's Day. Also, want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Green Mountain Dental. And
Allie will be there in the morning.
Allie will be there in the morning. Allie, want to tell us about your procedure?
She doesn't
It's
have a
the
headset
wisdom teeth. She's getting her wisdom
she?
teeth
No.
pulled out.
No headset.
Everybody has a great wisdom teeth story.
I can interview her and report back. Allie, are you nervous about it?
She doesn't have a mic.
She says, yeah. Well,
this is
so
a
that's
bad
not
bit.
great, Allie. Do you have anything more positive to say about it?
Green Mountain Dental Group is amazing.
Oh, she did say Green Mountain Dental Group is amazing. So that's what the important note is. And also, Lindsay, our sales director, has had her wisdom teeth out there, said it was the best experience she's had with a dentist in her life, which is tough to believe because there are a lot more
So
simple
you're gonna say it
things.
was her best experience ever having her wisdom teeth.
Yeah, good stuff over at Green Mountain Dental Group. It's they're big Colorado sports fans, family-owned dentistry, 15 minutes away from downtown Denver in Lakewood. Why not check them out? It's a great place. They support us, and we would appreciate if you'd support them. All right. An analogy?
Yes, Ben makes an analogy about how close McKinley Wright is to being the first ever player with 1,600 points, 600 rebounds, and 600 assists.
How close is he, Ben?
My mind went to some tough spots there. McKinley Wright, it was as... Okay, hold on. I have to actually get something straight because I still don't know.
Before
What is
that-
the difference between an analogy and a simile?
Well,
A simile
okay.
is
So-
like or as, right?
Yep, and a metaphor
like
is
her
not
what?
like or as.
Like or as.
Okay. Yes. So a metaphor does not include the word like or as, and you're basically saying something is something, whereas a simile would say you're doing something like something. Both of those are analogies.
yes.
Oh, so
I feel
can-
like we kind of ruined this whole thing we've had going where
Yeah,
Ben doesn't
'cause
even
now
know
I
what an
know.
analogy is.
Just so everyone knows, Ben famously bad at analogies. So
Yeah, so McKinley Wright was as close to a triple-double tonight as, some people are as close to...
actually trying right now.
Come on. Something close to something else, Ben. What's something close to something else?
As your shoelaces are close to the bottom of your feet. Because you wear your shoes weird.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, serve
That's
return.
a very niche one. Yeah,
See?
nope, that was a good one.
Yeah,
I also think the question was about the 1606 and
it was. You
Six
I thought
hundred.
it was the triple-double.
yeah, we could tell by the way you said
froze.
that.
Your mind started. The gears started turning so fast that you didn't even
How
hear my
close
question.
is McKinley Wright to a historic moment?
Yeah.
You know, he's as close as... Why is this so difficult? Why is this so difficult? As you know, guys, it's not getting any better.
This is so uncomfortable that I just want it to go on forever.
It's incredible. Well, while Ben thinks of two things that are close together, we'll get back to the rest of our show.
Back to your regular scheduled programming.
We're going to start with some over-unders.
All right.
And we're going to start with a question that I actually asked last time around, because we're talking about the wins the rest of the way. The Buffs now have, I think it's 6 games on the schedule. It doesn't seem like that Arizona State game is going to get made up.
Speaking of, really quick, it's a sidebar, but it's topical. Did you see J.R. Payne's comments today on their rescheduling?
Yes, I did.
Of course, she's the head coach of the women's basketball team. She said, so
Also
they
beat
have 5
Stanford.
games that they need to make up, I believe. And 4.
Yeah,
maybe
5.
4. They have 5 games that they need to make up. She says the conference told her it's up to the coaches to reschedule the games. And she said 0 coaches have reached out to her about rescheduling games. She reached out to one coach about rescheduling the game, and the coach said they had no interest in coming to Boulder to reschedule the game. What is going on in this conference?
Well, if you hadn't heard, the head has been cut off, but it's still kind of dangling, and that's kind of what's
McKinley
going
Wright
on.
is
That,
as
my
close
friends,
to the
is an
1600 club
There's an
as
analogy.
we are close to Larry Scott leaving the Pac-12
Wow.
conference.
Except that one's going to happen Saturday, one happens the end of June.
Right, so
it's not
that's
bad.
why I said it's not
got
the
it.
same.
Like.
I used
Yeah.
a simile,
Yep.
not a metaphor.
You
There you
used
go.
the form of an analogy correctly. It's just that it was a bad one.
Okay,
Which
well,
those
Which
are
is
our
the
favorite.
point of the game.
Yeah.
So in a way, you did win the game. The point though, the Buffs have 5 games on the schedule. Yep, with potential for that Arizona State game to be rescheduled. There's some weird stuff going on. You've got at Cal, at Oregon State, and then home against USC, UCLA. Over under 3.5 wins.
5 games left?
5 games left.
Give me the over.
I'm taking the over too.
oh, God, you put me in a tough spot. I mean, I have built up this reputation this entire season of being the hopeless, romantic, optimistic one here.
Hopeless romantic. Also a
Optimist.
bad analogy.
Why? I'm hopelessly believing that the Buffs were going to win the Pac-12 in football. You know?
Ah, yes.
So, analogy?
yeah, sure.
I want to take the over. I do, but I'm taking the under. I think it's 3 wins. I do still think they lose that game in Eugene, Oregon. And then I think they drop one to the LA schools just because both of those teams are very good basketball teams. That being said, Colorado should still finish 3rd in the conference.
So last time there was 7 games left, right? And the over/under was at 4.5. And we said it, and I think we all took the over. Now so I just kind of want to hold on to that bet slip, where now I only need 3 more wins to cover that.
Well, it was only 4.5, right, with the 7 games left,
Right.
and we won 2 already. So
That's what I'm saying. So I only need 3 more to
Yep.
cover that bet. I don't want to make a new bet. That's fair. But if I have to, look, I'm just really confident in the headspace that this team is in
I
right
know.
now, and that's so important in collegiate athletics. That I'll take them to win any game, every game.
I know, and that's why I was so tempted to set the line at 4.5, and I was like, well, that's absurd.
That's absurd.
Winning out, you can't take that, but at the same time, it's like, I feel good about the Cal game. I think that they can go beat, I don't know. This Oregon
We
looks good.
also know
Oregon looks good,
how
but
fickle college sports are.
it is true.
They could easily lose to Cal,
That is
and
very
it will
true.
erase all of our good feelings. But they could also beat Cal, and I'll be right back at they're gonna beat everyone.
Yep.
Now I'm not calling them to win out. I'm just saying I feel confident against whoever they line up against any night in this conference.
Yeah. I do think, though, too, at that point, I think the losses, and of course, I just said I think they'll lose to Oregon and one of the LA schools. But,
Right, what you said was the most reasonable thing ever. They're going to lose to Oregon and an LA school on the road.
Which means they'll probably lose their final games against Cal and Oregon State, but they'll beat
Or
Oregon
no,
and the LA schools.
The LA schools are at home, right?
Yeah. So, because it's so random. But I agree. This team can be competitive with any team on any given night. You feel great about, what seed they're going to be in the Pac-12 tournament, but also, where their stock is heading with the NCAA tournament. They put up the Lunardi projections today, which I thought were still egregious. Stanford is not the first team in. I think Stanford is a lock at this point. I think I don't know. I think they do get to rely on Oscar da Silva, and Williams has so much hype around him. I think they're going to end up a 9 seed.
I hope so. I mean, you always want more Pac teams to get in. The Pac-12 never really gets any respect.
Yeah.
So, while I think Stanford should be in, I know that the national perception is that the Pac-12 is a weak basketball conference, and I worry about how many teams we're going to get in.
Yeah. Well, what's the interesting thing is, Oregon was listed in that projection as a 12 seed. Is that just because COVID pauses, or like?
Yeah, Oregon's in a weird place, and the truth is, there's a bunch of teams that are in weird places. As it stands now, you look at Oregon's resume and say, typically, this is a resume that we see in the middle of January.
Yeah.
And if you saw this resume in the middle of January, you'd say, yeah, this is a team that's probably going to the tournament. But when you don't have the same sample size that other teams do, how do you weight that as a committee? Because I do think that it's going to play a part, and I'm not necessarily sure that it should. In the same way that Ohio State was able to get into the college football playoff playing 6 games, how much can you really punish a team for? I think Oregon has 5 games right now that they still don't have on the schedule as reschedules.
Right.
So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I do think that Oregon and Stanford do deserve to be in.
I will say, be thankful it's Oregon and not Colorado, because Oregon does get a name bump.
Yeah.
If Colorado was in this position sitting at 10-4, nobody would have them in.
I completely agree.
Okay, next question. So, a full healthy rotation, a competitive game, over under 5 minutes for Tristan da Silva.
From here on out, you're saying?
From here on out.
So, it's the last week of the season. Jabari Walker is healthy.
Everybody's healthy. Does he break 5 minutes? Is he still a piece of that rotation?
No, I think it's the under. But that's okay. Like, you don't need Tristan da Silva. He's just been really awesome when you did need him.
Yep.
Or at least really reliable when you did need him. And these minutes will be extremely valuable moving forward when you eventually do need him. Especially because the later in the season you get, the shorter the bench gets. Tad kind of already had his rotation dialed in, and Tristan wasn't a part of it. I don't think while he's been good, I don't think can't leave him out of the rotation good.
I think that's all sound logic. Part of me leans over because, and honestly, here's why. I think Keyshawn Barthélemy and his absence, his inability to come in and make the big impact, not that he's done anything necessarily wrong, but he hasn't done anything necessarily that jumps off the page.
He's somebody you're excited about for the future. I'm not sure he adds much to a team that's trying to compete in March.
And that's why I think this team is going to steer into the front court skid. And I think they're going to try and get all these guys minutes as much as they can. The other point that I'll make with that is Dallas Walton and Evan Batty get into so many situations of foul trouble that's when I think he picks up 5 minutes. Honestly, end of first halves, damn near every game, I wouldn't be surprised if he got 6-7 minutes at the end of the first half, because Dallas and Evan are like two. But if Dallas and Evan are sitting there with 2-3 fouls apiece, maybe Tad buys some minutes against teams like Cal or Oregon State.
Tad loves buying minutes, and because of that, he might play Tristan more than I think he will. You just reminded me of my one criticism of the team tonight, and it was Dallas Walton taking that third foul right when he came back onto the court. It was just such a low basketball IQ moment, which you don't expect from him. But it was just like, okay, you're back on the court. You have 2 fouls. Just don't jump on pump fakes. And literally the first pump fake he sees, he goes flying into the air and draws a foul. And I'm just like, dude, that conversation had to have happened with someone with one of the coaches on the sidelines who said, hey, we're going to send you back in there. Don't jump. And it happened. That was like the one time all night that I got really frustrated watching this game.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fair criticism, and it does pave the way for some legitimate concerns about this team if you want to, put them under a microscope and say, where is this team going to get into problems? Well, it can get into problems. If this foul trouble tonight happened against USC, I don't think the results are the same because Evan Mobley and, Isaiah, those guys are just different. That front court is different than, even Stanford, and Stanford has one of the best players in the West in Oscar Da Silva. So they would just tear apart guys like Tristan Da Silva and even Jariah Horn because Horn just doesn't have that length.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is we might look back at this moment during a tournament game and say, man, all those minutes that happened for Tristan Da Silva are really valuable right now because the front court's in foul trouble, and so I'm really this is unequivocally a good thing for the Buffs. Hopefully they just don't need to put Tristan Da Silva into the rotation. If he does, you feel completely comfortable right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you love this front court moving forward. You love this team moving forward, especially when you see you got Lawson Lovering coming in. Then you've still got Da Silva. You still got Jabari Walker. And then also Evan Batty, Dallas Walton. Those are guys that still can keep their eligibility. This team could be even better next year just without McKinley Wright. And, that's going to hurt their ceiling. But having that flexibility is going to be big.
Yeah, I guess I haven't shared too many of my thoughts. But yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think that the foul trouble definitely gives him a path. I think that on any given night, the potential for him to play that many minutes is certainly there. I don't know whether that happens enough for me to be saying that I'm taking the over there. Moving on to the next question, though, one I'm kind of excited about. So McKinley Wright took 17 shots tonight, most of any Buffalo. Nobody else had more than 8. Over under 11 shot attempts from McKinley Wright per game over the rest of the season.
Over.
It's at 10.6 for the season to this point.
Yeah, and this is McKinley's time. He is a big time player. And when the stakes get higher, he ups his game. Now, the one thing I will say that could be a detriment to this is that teams, especially good teams that are going to play Colorado, are going to probably, if they're smart, they're going to go back and look at that Tennessee film. Now, not everyone is capable of doing what Tennessee did with their length, but they just didn't allow McKinley Wright to get into the paint. And if teams are smart, that's exactly what they'll try to do. Now, again, not everyone has the personnel to do it, but we'll see. They play some good teams, so I think we'll have that strategy. But I still think this is McKinley Wright time. It's go time. You're a senior, and this is your team. I think he's going to take over.
Yeah, I think you can see it in him too in his play. He's got that fire. Not that he doesn't always have that kind of intensity, but right now, it really does seem like he's got that fire lit under his ass where he's ready to go out there and take 17 shots. You hope that he makes them at a better clip than 7 of 17, just because he's capable of it. You know that he can go out there and dominate a game, and that's why you'd like to see it because, tonight it very well could have been 29-9, and that's, just an even bigger stat line. And that's just because some shots that he's seen fall in the past didn't go. You do really hope he can start seeing some threes fall because without that confidence from the perimeter, it does inhibit him. You touched on it earlier in the game, Ryan. You said if he doesn't get that first one to fall, he's going to be super shying away from it the rest of the game. And that hurts because he's going to get open looks because of the penetration of this Buffs team into the paint.
Yeah, I feel about McKinley, I talked about this a lot last year with Nikola Jokic, but when the defense comes into the game with their plan being focus on you, I honestly don't care if the shots go in. I want you to make them keep thinking that. So I want McKinley to shoot 3 threes every first half to make them think about that and honor it. And hopefully 1 or 2 of those goes in, and now they're really worried about it. I want you to go into the paint and shoot floaters. Why? Because then when you drive, they aren't just waiting to try and jump the passing lane because they know, oh, he's just driving as a illusion to then kick it out to the corner. So I like him shooting those. I don't 7 for 17 tonight. I don't care. Take 17 shots, miss 10 of them. Make the defense think that you're attacking. That way, when you do get in there and you want to kick it out to Maddox Daniels or Jariah Horn, the defense isn't just trying to pretend like they're going to go cover you inside and then kick it out. Just be aggressive, and it makes the whole offense work better.
I totally agree with everything you guys said. One more, and this might be a quick one. 5 games left on the schedule. Over under 4.5 wins needed to win the regular season championship.
Over.
You have to win out?
Yeah.
Yep. You assume 1 loss each from USC, UCLA. The rest of the way, Buffs win out. You don't expect a second from them.
Yeah, I
I think that's
I think
probably right.
one of those teams is going to go 4-1.
I think so.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's the only way you'll feel comfortable with it. You know, I mean, there's a very real chance because also the thing to remember is Colorado's end of season game is LA now because they moved the Utah game up to try and keep this last week of the season free in case of rescheduling. With Arizona State having so many games to reschedule, I don't know that they'll want to. And quite frankly, I don't know that Colorado will want to pick that win up, depending on where they're at. So, come March 6th, USC, UCLA, they're playing each other. Colorado could be watching with a close eye. But if you don't win out, yeah, I don't know that it matters.
Okay. I think that's probably right. Also, when we're talking about rescheduling games, Oregon, as we mentioned, has 5 games to reschedule. 2 of them are against UCLA, one's against USC. If any of those games get put on the schedule, that is a major, major win for Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah, and they won't.
And this is where the J.R. Payne things come in.
Right.
Yeah.
USC
Nobody
and
wants
UCLA
that.
don't want. Why would they want to play them?
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. All right. If you guys have any questions, we're going to get to all of those right after this break. If you're watching on YouTube, first of all, if you're not watching on YouTube, get to YouTube. It's a lot better. But if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you give us the thumbs up and subscribe so that you know whenever we do this stuff. That's a notification. That's a different thing. But it all really helps, and we appreciate it. And we'll be back doing this, I think, for the rest of the games. Is the plan. So, yeah, we're going to take a quick break. Everybody get your questions in. We'll finish out with those. But first, a quick word about Zoom Care. There we go. Zoom Care is incredible. It's awesome how during this pandemic, everybody's found ways to not have to leave their house. Like, first of all, because it's like literally saving lives, but also because people don't like leaving their house. And this has forced us to push all of our creativity into that lane. And so many good things have come from it, just like Zoom Care. Basically, what Zoom Care is going to the doctor, but without going to the doctor. It's just a video call. The doctor comes to you. They're sitting in your living room virtually, and it's generally covered by insurance with a copay. It's just a very easy way to figure out what's going on without having to spend all that time driving to the doctor's office, sitting in the waiting room, blah, blah, blah. All those things that people who take care of their health better than me know all about. If you guys want to get into Zoom Care, you can go to zoomcare.com. That's ZOOMCARE.com. Again, there's nothing better than getting a diagnosis from a doc while sitting in your own living room. So make sure you go to zoomcare.com. All right.
I have an important update.
Good.
There was a picture from the Colorado men's basketball team posted of Oscar da Silva and Tristan da Silva smiling together.
Okay.
So my theory that they might not like each other from during the game has been put to bed.
Well, that is very good that we were not pushing that theory over the course of this show, and we spent our time asking Ben to make analogies.
I was watching their interactions during the entire game. At no point did they ever show that they were brothers at all. It was like a couple at the same workplace trying to hide that they're dating.
Well,
So that's an analogy.
That is like a good one, right, Ben?
like they were just like ignoring each other the whole game. I was like, usually like if your brother fouls you and you get an and one, you like look over and smirk at him.
At some point, like, it would come up, especially when they were going at each other.
That's what I mean.
Like, it's not even like they were on opposite ends of the court. Like, they were bumping up against each other and doing all the rubbing that everybody does down below the basket. And it's just
You're
like
taking this workplace relationship thing too far.
You get that you get the point.
Well, that's why they don't want anyone to know they're brothers, because they don't want everybody to know how much they're rough.
Stop. Jesus.
See, just can't.
Well, do you have a brother?
No.
Do you don't have a brother?
No.
See, I have a brother. I know what it's like to go up against him.
You know what it's like?
Yeah.
Never mind. I'm not.
No, it's
I'm
not
steering
even in a
this the other way.
sexual way. He's an engineering student, okay?
because Ben was saying stuff before.
You were saying stuff before.
Oh yeah, but then you took it all the way to the.
We were
This is
both
bad.
thinking it.
This is bad.
This is Gary Gooch all over again.
Oh my
What
goodness.
I was gonna say, anyways.
Kari.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Kari.
What I was gonna say is that I was just surprised that they never interacted with each other in a brotherly way during the entire game. Even the tip-off, I was looking for it. Nothing. Well, Tristan wasn't out there, but still, like, you know, you give him like a
Away from the bench while he's jumping for the ball.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like a head nod.
There was
Anything.
nothing.
It's weird.
I
It was
almost feel like if you're Tristan though, like isn't it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, do you think in the locker room before the game, everybody's coming up to him just being like, "So you excited to go up against your brother?" And like to get
No.
out there and to be like, "Hey, look, there's my brother."
No,
like,
here's
it was
the
like,
analogy.
if I was Tristan Da Silva and I hit a 3, I'd look right in my brother's face and
No, here's the analogy.
that.
Have you guys ever been like, you know, out at an event or whatever, and your ex-girlfriend is there? You want to
Yes.
show off, but not give them any recognition. You don't even want to make eye contact with them
But why would you do that to your brother?
because it gets in their head. It makes them think, "Oh, I wonder if he cries about me at night." You know, it's an analogy, Ryan.
think-
Cries about me at night means thinks that I'm better than you. You know, in a basketball sense per se.
There is an analogy. Put that on a T-shirt. What was it? Yeah. Okay. Any questions, Allie?
No.
No questions. Nobody has any
I
questions.
mean, how could you have any questions? The only question that was answered is Colorado as much better than Stanford as it looked like in the first game? And the question is no. The answer is no. They're actually even better than that.
Someone said, can Hank and Ben have a podcast on how to develop the best Tinder profile?
I don't
Again,
think
that
we
wouldn't
would have
help.
good advice.
Yeah, like if you want to have a lot of fun on Tinder but not actually achieve anything, then certainly we could.
I don't
we could
even
make
have
that
fun on
podcast.
Tinder. I did though during the course of the show. I got a notification that I have a new like. I haven't looked yet, but
Just wait until we concoct this picture after this, and you make that your
Oh,
Tinder
wow.
prof pic.
I might make the Valentine's Day graphic my Twitter header and tweet it out and just be like Valentine's Day ? Peep header.
Yeah.
Look,
always
Ryan,
go
now is
looking
the
for the
time
DM
of-
slides.
now it's time for love. You know,
It
it's
is,
time for
yes.
lust, and now is the time then to throw your Twitter fishing pole out there and see if anybody bites.
All right, we have one
I say I agree. Throw your poll out there and see if anyone bites it.
There we go. There's a question. Who can read it?
Peter Plummer says, "What is this team ceiling if the bracket breaks perfectly?"
I mean,
Ooh.
I love that you put that in there because if you were asking about like March Madness, I'm always just going to say all that matters is the matchups. So now that we know the bracket broke perfectly and they just play teams like Stanford the whole way through. No, I mean, I think there's, oh God, I don't know. I mean,
But see, again, this is kind of a weird conversation because the point of March Madness is that anybody can win.
Yeah.
Like
Right, but-
anybody can.
and so like the problem I'm trying to think of here is like at what point can the bracket break perfectly and you still get a good matchup with a team that's just better than you?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably like the Elite Eight.
That's kind of what I was coming up with.
Sweet 16 for me.
I
think
odds are.
I
Again,
think-
we're talking about the bracket broke perfectly.
Well, okay, so let's spin. You know, Silverbuff put one in our Discord. Colorado's a 5 seed, matched up with Clemson as a 12, and then they play Colgate, who would be a 4 seed.
Wow, CU on CU in the first round, and then CU on CU
Yeah.
in the second
So
round.
that gets you to the Sweet 16 and puts you up against, as a 5 seed, that puts you up against a 1 seed, whether that be, okay, because honestly, you know, even if the bracket
But
breaks
the bracket
perfectly,
breaking perfectly does not see you playing a 1 seed in the Sweet 16. Like that did
The
not
one
work.
seed gets upset.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And like we have to be more realistic than like a 16 seed won and then won
But
again.
an
and
8 seed, an 8 seed, the next round.
It's hard to say, but I do think like the ultimate ceiling, everything breaks perfectly, is probably the Elite Eight.
Probably, yeah. And again, that's everything breaking perfectly. But everything breaking perfectly kind of starts right now where, you know, if you do win out, you win the Pac-12, you win the Pac-12 tournament, well, then all of a sudden you're what, a 2 seed, a 3 seed? You don't think, again,
3 seed.
5 wins.
You'd have won.
5 plus 3,
8.
so 8. No, you'd put yourself at.
You would have won 11 in a row.
With that conference title next to your name, too.
Yeah.
I think that
With regular
there'd be a
season
conversation.
and conference.
All right, here is okay.
But again, we're talking in like the dreamiest of dreamland.
But
Yes.
honestly, even in that world, Gonzaga, Baylor, Villanova, Alabama,
Yeah.
Ohio State, Michigan, that's 6 teams. And then you have arguments for, who else.
I think they're probably a 3 seed.
Probably a 3
Yeah.
seed, but I do think that there might be a conversation to be had about a 2 seed.
So they've won 3 in a row now. They have 5 games left. That's 8. They win 3 in the Pac-12 tournament. I mean, you win it. You finish the season on an 11-game win streak.
What does that put your record at? 24-5? Conference champs? Yeah.
Conference champs, regular season, and conference tourney. I mean, you're a 3 seed.
Yeah.
And if you're a 3 seed, the reason that matters is because you don't have to play a 1 seed for one more round. When that 2 and 3 pair off and the 4 and 1 pair off, that 3 seed could be huge. And for the same reason, like if we're talking about trying to get as far as they can in the tournament, you could certainly make the argument that not the 4 and the 5, but the 6 and the 7 would actually be better than playing as a 5 or a 4 because then you'd be forced to play a 1 earlier.
Yeah.
Which I hate that. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. I like that the NFL reseeds. Now, I don't know if you could reseed the NCAA tournament.
It would take some of the fun out.
Yeah, exactly.
You
But
don't
I just
get
hate
to
the
fill out
fact that
brackets.
you get hurt from finishing better.
Yeah.
I do think that based on the conversation we just had in this perfect bracket world, I don't think Colorado leaves mid-weekend. That would be my prediction. If they end up as a 5 seed, they're either going to the Sweet 16 or they're going to the Final Four. You know what I mean? Like I don't see them. What I mean is I don't see them making it to the Elite 8 and losing. And that's in that perfect bracket scenario. I think if you've made it to the Elite 8, I think you've got enough juice to get you all the way there.
I mean, see, like that's the thing is in a basketball game, you get hot, you can win.
Shooters shoot.
That
All I have to say.
is, I guess, applicable here.
Not an analogy, but we might be able to flame him for that because he might think it's an analogy.
He might.
I almost did.
Oh, next question.
Is it better to win the Pac-12 tournament and go round of 32 or lose in the Pac-12 tournament and get to the Sweet 16?
Sweet 16.
Very easy. Yeah, you take playing the latest every
Yeah.
time.
And for so many reasons, but a big one just being what outsiders think of your program. The truth
Exactly.
is, not a lot of casual basketball fans are tuning into the tournaments. And there's like a line somewhere in there where people are and people aren't. But there are a lot more people watching Sweet 16 basketball than watching Pac-12 tournament. And round of 32 and the round of 64
When you're
and
talking
all
about
that.
people, I'm talking about 16-year-old kids.
Exactly.
Those are the ones watching the Sweet 16
Mm-hmm.
that say, "Oh man, that black and gold is nice. This team is cool. McKinley Wright's dope. I wouldn't mind playing there."
And that's where you can start to get that Cinderella story mentality thing because, if you lose in the Pac-12 tournament and you don't win the regular season, that probably then puts you at a 5 or 7 seed, somewhere in there, okay? As a 5 or 7 seed, going dancing, especially being Colorado, that's going to get a lot of those people that you redo their ESPN brackets during Sweet 16 that want to pick Colorado because they just say, nobody expects Colorado to win. Like, that'd be a fun team to root for. And they become, when kids are 8, 9, 10 years old and they're playing out on the basketball court, they say, oh, our team will be Colorado, because they want to have that Cinderella mentality. I think that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know about the 8 and 9-year-olds, but
I mean, 8 and 9-year-olds turn into 15 and 16-year-olds.
right. But the point stands.
But yeah.
It's exposure.
It is.
You get to the Sweet 16, people just know you. You beat someone you shouldn't probably, and you probably had an exciting game. People know who McKinley Wright is. They learn, there's a whole ESPN thing about the guard development under Tad Boyle,
Yep.
and it's Derek White, and it's Spencer Dinwiddie, and it's McKinley Wright. Like, you're just going through all of this.
And don't forget, Chauncey Billups came through those doors too
right,
beforehand. Yeah.
Exactly. There's like a graphic that has them all. And
Yeah.
I will say, though, I would put more stock in a conference championship for what I would want. If I'm a fan of a team, I think the ultimate pinnacle is to win your conference because everything after that is kind of a cherry on top.
I mean, national championship is...
But what I'm saying, where Colorado is right now, I think the cherry that you go for on top of that Sunday is winning your conference because even if you won the Pac-12 this year, there was never a chance that Colorado would have been to the college football playoff. And, maybe that kind of jades my view a bit, but nobody expected you to do that. And I think that would be a nice kind of feather in the cap. But yeah, that being said, making the Sweet 16 would be big. I do say that I don't think the two are correlated. Like, if you win the Pac-12 tournament, I think there's a much higher chance you go dancing farther.
I'll say this. I'm more likely to buy a Pac-12 champion shirt than I am a Sweet 16 participants shirt.
I do like participation shirts.
Because if you make the Sweet 16, did you win anything?
And see,
No,
and
'cause
that's
you have
the
to
thing.
get to the Elite 8 to have won your.
Oh, yeah. You don't win a region because there's what? It's broken into 16, so you'd need to win 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to make the Final Four to get that. And
have
yeah,
to-
and that's where Final Four is, okay, I buy that merch because that's
You would
Right.
buy
No,
Elite
hell
Eight
yeah,
merch?
I'd buy all of it. But
Making
yeah.
the Final Four in
You'd buy
college
more.
basketball, you basically won.
Yeah.
Like the Final Four is like that's branded more heavily than the championship game.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It
Like
is.
if you made the Final Four, then you basically did it. But I will say, yeah, I want a regular season championship though. Like we've already done the tournament, and that was incredible. But everyone always says, well, yeah, but Washington was the best team in the Pac-12 that year. You know, if you're the regular season conference champions, there's no margin of error here or fluke that happened. Like you just were the best team that year.
Yeah. Totally. I feel like unless there are any more questions, Allie, no more questions, we're going to get out of here. And what's so nice is that we get to talk about the Buffs competing for a regular season championship. I mean, because the Buffs have never been a top 4 seed in the Pac-12 before. And as of right now, they are 10-4, sitting in 3rd place, 2-game lead on number 4, on number 5, on number 6. So maybe it's a little congested there. You're not safe yet, but this is a very good season for Colorado, and there's more on the way. We'll be here breaking down all the games after they finish at the DNVR Buffs Postgame Show presented by the Colorado XOs. We also have the DNVR Buffs podcast presented by the Colorado XOs, so make sure that you tune into that as well.
Last thing I want to say here, you know, the Sweet 16 would be a high watermark for the program under Tad Boyle. Well, there's another high watermark that's very much in reach. 2 more wins in the Pac-12 will be a record for in the Tad Boyle era for conference wins. They've never won 12, which again, I think it would be a really great feather in the cap, a nice milestone to exceed, and hopefully be a precursor to more milestones that they're going to exceed the rest of the season.
Yep. And also you hope that some of those come on the road. He even gets closer to 500 on the road in the conference. They're feeling fantastic about it. But we got to get out of here because Henry's swiping on a girl. So
Dude, she liked me, Randy. But yeah,
Tinder.
on Tinder. But yeah, that's it. We're gonna be out. Make sure you stay tuned and please like and subscribe and all that stuff on YouTube if you're still watching on YouTube.